Okay, um, so the other day, um, during stream, I shared this, which is kind of like a naming scheme I came up with for the 22 Edo triads. Say I came up with it, but it had a lot of influence from xenharmonic alliance Discord conversations. I was asking a lot of questions about particular chords, and different people were pointing me. We're telling me what they call the chords, and then so I didn't really come up with almost any of these names on my own. Um, but I just organized this list, and then I started coming up with like these possible chord symbols to go with it, and I shared this on the Discord. Um, didn't really get much response. One of the people in the 22 equal thread were seemed to have some issues with some of the names, but I didn't really fully understand what their issues even were. But they actually sent me an updated or like their own version, which is this. So this is from Midnight Blue. So but what and I'll get to that shortly. But it has a bit in common with this list, but a lot of things are different. So maybe I'll kind of like out loud figure out what some of the differences are. Um, but also I shared this first list on the microtonal Facebook group, and one of the big microtonalists there, who's pretty well known for his involvement in 22 Edo, um, didn't really like the inclusion of the temperament names. So by that I mean like Orwell and Chemic and Magic and Sense of Magic. So I reference all those here as like being the chord names. And yeah, he just said he didn't like that, and a few other people kind of concurred with him. So it didn't get a huge response, but of the 10 or so people who did respond, that was seemed to be the majority opinion, was they didn't like the temperament names. Um, and to be clear, a couple people said they could understand the temperament names, but wouldn't. Basically, their issue with it was that they wouldn't expect musicians to understand them. Which I'm gonna talk about my opinion on that um, in a minute, but I did come up with an alternative which I thought they would like more, which they seem to like more. And this has no temperament references. In fact, this looks a lot more like a kind of standard classic style naming system. So since I went over this first one the other day, I think I'll start with this one today. Um, it's pretty straightforward. It's just very systematic and kind of clean and logical. So if you're not aware, the way that 22 equal works as far as triads go is you have uh, four types of thirds. You have subminor thirds, which that's the little s. You have minor thirds, that's the little m, major thirds, and super major thirds. And subminor thirds are 5 Ito steps, minor thirds are 6, major thirds are 7, and then super major thirds are 8. So there's just 16 combinations of those 4 types, right? So 4 times 4. So the most basic chord types, these are not ones that we really needed names for because we've had these names. The most basic chord types are the subminor, which is and these are the most basic because they form a perfect fifth, and they're pretty straightforward. So subminor followed by super major makes a subminor triad, and that sounds like this. And then minor third followed by a major third makes a minor triad. Sounds like that. Not really going to go into the... I know they're subtly different, but they are different. I'm not going to go into all that right now. And then a major third followed by minor third is a major triad. And then you know, super major triad is super major third followed by a subminor third. So those are the basic ones. And there's no like issue about what to call these really. The only argument here is some people actually like to call the subminor minor, and they like to call the major, the super major major. They want to call this down major and this up minor, and that's because that follows the circle of fifths notation. So if you do that, then in 22 equals C, E, G is still a major chord. So either way, it's sort of confusing because basically the way it works out is in 22 equal, what sounds like a major chord, the major chord that we're familiar with, it's C, down, E, and G. And if you play C in regular E and G, it sounds super major. So you can either make the chord names confusing or you can make the letter names confusing, and I opt to make the letter names confusing. And I think that's kind of what most people tend to do. They tend to go C, down, E, G is a major chord because that's what it sounds like. But anyway, so those are the main ones, and there's, for the most part, not really any question about these. So minor, or subminor, minor, major, super major. Pretty much every other chord there is some question. It's a little harder to determine what the chord should be called. But this is a pretty straightforward system right here where, you know, you just say what's in the chord. You really don't even have to know that much about 22 equal to figure out how these work or what they might consist of. You do need to be familiar with like the basics of 22. Like you need to know that there's an up 5 and a down 5, and you need to be able to, you know, understand the difference between subminor and major and all that. Looks pretty intuitive. Yeah, I think this is pretty straightforward. And this, I think, this is probably what I would recommend to someone newer to 22. I think this is probably a better general purpose naming scheme than the one I had before. And it's more in line with what already exists in 12 equal. So, I mean, if you just look at these, they kind of just look like jazz chords. There's just a few funny symbols. The ups are new, the sine and the sag are new. But if you're familiar with like the 31 Ito music theory videos or some other microtonal videos, you've seen these before anyway. So, yeah, really just like the up and the downs. So yeah, if you have 2 subminor thirds, calling it subdiminished here. And then if you have a subminor and then a minor, this sounds like a diminished chord, And I'll actually play that one. It sounds like this. Or I'll play a little higher. It is a diminished chord, but it's not like the standard diminished chord in 22 based off the diatonic scale or the nice tone scale. So with the diminished chord, it's a little ambiguous, but I elected to call this version the minor third, subminor third diminished, because if you play a G7 chord and you take out the root, you get down B, D, and F, and that's minor third, subminor third. So just, I opted to consider the diminished chord as being, the top 3/4 of the seventh chord, the basic seventh chord. That way it doesn't change from standard theory. So this is the diminished quote unquote chord. But this subminor flat 5 is a diminished chord. So as you learn about these chords, you find out that, there's several diminished chords. This one, and then this one as well. And I guess the subdiminished is kind of a diminished chord too. So yeah, you have several diminished chords. So yeah, that's the subminor flat 5, and then subminor again, straightforward, diminished, just talked about that. And then a minor down 5 or double minor, it's just two minors. Again, kind of a diminished chord. Then C minor, minor major. Now this chord, this is one of the weirder 22 Ito triads. It's one that people tend to avoid. So you go minor and then up 5. I really like this one. But yeah, it's just a minor third and then a super major third. And call that a minor up 5. It's just a minor chord. Raise the 5th. And then here's another one that's people tend to avoid. It's a major down 5. So if you took a major chord, lowered the 5th, it sounds like that. This does pop up in nice tone. So if you're a nice tone and just stacked thirds off a D, you would get that chord. And we do a lot of moving stuff around to avoid playing that chord. So that we consider that a wolf 5th usually. And C major, blah blah blah. Now the augmented chord you'd think would be straightforward, but this is probably the most, I guess, controversial. I mean, it's kind of weird to call something that, maybe 20 people in the world actually have even spent a moment of time thinking about a controversy. But as far as the conversations I've had about this go, the augmented chord is the toughest one to pin down. And when I go back over the other naming systems, we'll see that basically the augmented chord is the only reason to even, or it's maybe not the only reason, but it's the biggest reason to consider getting outside of this system. So in 22, two major thirds sounds like this, which maybe you think that sounds augmented, maybe you think it sounds a little weird. There's several chords that sound sort of augmented. What's strange about an augmented chord in 22 equal, and this is going to apply to pretty much all these chords at the end here, actually all of these chords at the end here, is that these final 6 chords, starting with this one, they all invert to one of these other chords. So this So in 12 equal, if you invert an augmented chord, like if you have C, E, G sharp, and you invert it, you get E, G sharp, C, which is another augmented chord in another root position, and it's still major third, major third. Now that's a strange feature of augmented chords compared to other triads in 12 equal. And we say that that chord, that augmented triad, we say that it's symmetrical, or it's symmetric, or whatever. So because it's symmetric, it inverts into the same quality chord on a different root, which means that inversions of augmented chords in 12 equal are really not that important, because the inversion doesn't really change the sound at all. Like a first inversion augmented triad sounds exactly the same as a root position augmented triad. So they all sound exactly the same. They're all only enharmonically different. Now in 22 equal, that's not the case, because 22 is not divisible by 3, which, in 12 equal, that's what augmented triad is. It's just a third of an octave or whatever. So, but you still have this weird thing where if you invert it, it becomes another triad. The thing is that makes it especially weird in 22 is that the triad it inverts to is of a different quality. So, just to be clear on that, say you're playing a major chord like C major, it would go C, down E, G, and you were to invert that, you'd get down E, G, C. Well, from C to down E is a major third, and then from down E to G is a minor third, right? But once you invert it from down E to G, it's still a minor third. From G to C, that's a fourth. It's a perfect fourth. It's too big to call a third, right? So we don't call it a new chord. We don't say, oh, that's not a major chord. That's a wager chord or whatever. You don't call it a whole new name. You just say it's a major chord in first inversion. Now, with this augmented chord here, if you had C, down E, up G, which is what you get when you stack major thirds in 22. If you invert this, you get down E, up G, C, right? Now you might be thinking, well, up G to C, that sounds like a fourth, right? Well, up G is the same note as A flat. So A flat to C is a super major third. So you get major third, super major third. And that's the inversion of the augmented triad. So a first inversion augmented triad is also a major, where is it? It's also a major down sharp 5. It's the same as a major down sharp 5. So major third, super major third. And if you were to play this chord on the same root as we played the previous chord, so here's two major thirds, here's major third, super major third. I mean, they're not the same quality. You see what I mean? Even though this chord inverts to one of these chords on a different root, obviously, but if you were to play these chords back to back on the same root, it's very obvious. They have a very different sound. So, and then if you invert this chord again, you get the super major down sharp 5. So super major, and then a major third. So it's a really strange property of augmented triads in 22 equal. So you can't really think about them the same way as you think about them in 12 equal, because they're not symmetric. But they do have this weird, or they do have the same property of inverting into other triads. So I don't know that there's a word for this in xenharmonic theory. Um, I don't recall hearing anyone ever talk about this. It's just something I noticed the other day when I was trying to figure out what to call these chords. But basically, because of this, I think this is maybe the most compelling reason to think about a different sort of system. Um, it's one reason why I kind of like the system I came up with before, which we'll review that in a little bit. But and I'll explain that in a bit. But that's just a preview of that. So anyway, we're calling this augmented, and then major super we're calling major down sharp 5, and that's literally what it is, a major third, and then the fifth is a down sharp 5. Now, the other thing I don't like about this is I don't like down sharp. If you didn't call it down sharp 5, you could call it up 5. I don't like double ups. I don't like down sharp. I mean, you have to use them in 22. I like them in certain contexts. Like, and maybe they're fine. I mean, not maybe they're fine. They are fine. Maybe they're unavoidable. Like, I can't really think of a better system. But I think there are ways to, by adding new symbols, which maybe that's overcomplicating it, but I think if you add new symbols, you can at least keep down sharps and up flats and double downs and double ups in the in like your note alterations and stuff. Like your altered extensions and like in your but I don't know, maybe that's kind of silly because if you're gonna have them anyway in your altered extensions, like why wouldn't you put them here? So I don't know. It's fine, honestly, but it is confusing. Down sharp is confusing. Um, and maybe double up is better because it's just you're not thinking in two directions and like doing that math every time you look at it. So maybe double up is better, like major double up 5. Um, but yeah, that's that inverted. That's that. And then super major we went over. Then super major up 5. So this is super major third followed by a minor. So this has the same fifth as the augmented triad, but it's got a super major third between. And this is a really interesting chord. This is another one of those that people tend to avoid. This is one of my favorites. I think this is one of the coolest. This chord and its inversions are like really neat chords in 22. And this is also a chord that inverts into another triad. But this one is almost weirder because, well, I'll explain this at the end. So super major major is a super major down 5. We actually talked about that before. That's an inversion of the augmented triad. And then, but it's also its own triad, obviously. Or I hope that's obvious at this point. And then super major sharp 5. It's literally what it sounds like. Super major, and then there's a sharp 5. So notice that all these 5 alterations, you have up flat, you have down 5, you have up 5, you have down sharp 5, and you have sharp 5, and they're all different. So, you know, if you were reading this sort of thing, you would, you know, and this is true for 22 in general, you always have to keep your eye out for ups and downs. And again, maybe instead of down sharp 5, double up would be better. I'm not really sure yet. I haven't formulated my opinion. And maybe instead of up flat, double down is better. I'm not really sure. But the current convention is definitely up flat and down sharp. That's definitely what the few people who mess with this stuff tend to do right now. Okay, so this chord, this final chord, this super super, this is actually like if you were to spell the notes according to the circle of fifths, this would be C, E, G sharp. So that would be an augmented triad. And if you spell, C, E, G sharp in 12ito, that's an augmented triad. In 22, it sounds a little, it's super major third, so they sound a little wide. They're approaching fourths even. So it has kind of a, it's got a stretchy sort of quality. But there are people who think this is the augmented chord in 22. And then there's people who think that this is the augmented chord in 22. Now, I opted for this because more people have told me this than this. I don't think either one of them sounds augmented, honestly. I think the one that sounds the most augmented is this where's the major, super major? This major down sharp 5. The major down sharp 5. That I think sounds more traditional augmented. But I could see how like context would change things. And maybe what I'll do at some point is go through and like find a song that has an augmented triad in it that's kind of famous. Like I know the Beatles has, or John Lennon, one of them has a song with an augmented triad in it that's really well known. But it's not, augmented chords are not common chords, especially in popular music. But yeah, I'm sure I can find one of those rare instances where it does exist in a popular song and try a 22 equal version and test out the different chords that could potentially be augmented. See which one works best. And I'm sure that depending on the situation, like, augmented sounds are a lot more common, like soundtrack stuff that's more like atmospheric, in some classical music, especially like more, maybe not modern, but like romantic era and stuff approaching modern. And of course, augmented chords are used a lot in jazz, especially more kind of sophisticated cerebral jazz. Usually we don't call them augmented, we call them, like sharp 5 chords. But I'm sure depending on all those different contexts, I don't know if you would want to use the same one every time. I'd be surprised if you did, but maybe, I don't know, maybe there's one or maybe one or two that seems solid most of the time. I don't really know. I think there's potentially 4 augmented chords. The major major, this is what I'm calling augmented here, the major down 5, and this super major down sharp 5, or major down sharp 5, super major down sharp 5, and the super major sharp 5. I think those 4 are all potentially augmented, depending on the context. They could probably be used as an augmented chord. So this is the much cleaner system. It's a lot more, like everything's there. You don't really have to have much. You do still have to have some, but you don't have to have as much insider knowledge to make sense of these, I feel like. I think if you're kind of familiar with 22's layout, its structure, if you know how it has the 2 or 3 tritones, the altered 5s kind of make sense. They'll probably make sense. And yeah, so that's that. Now, this I think people are gonna like more and is probably gonna want to use more, especially the more old school folks. I think a lot of the newer microtonalists who are more comfortable with RTT concepts they might prefer more temperament names. So here's what Blue Midnight sent me, and have looked at this. It has a lot in common with the one that I showed the other day. Where is that? By the way, let me pull that one up. Where did I put that? Oh, it's right here. So this one I showed the other day. It has a lot more in common with this. We'll go over this first, and then we'll review the one I did the other day, and then I'll kind of talk about what I personally like. So Blue Midnight knows knows this temperament stuff like a lot better than I do. As far as RTT goes, I know very little. So pretty much all the temperament names that I was using, it wasn't because I have some special insight into temperaments and Moss scales and all that. It's just because I was asking questions. So I was just, basically asking people who know more about this stuff than I do, what they call the chords. So anyway, this is the same thing. It's organized slightly differently. But this is the same thing. So sub minor, sub minor. And I don't know what all these, obviously this is something, I don't know who's going around saying me, ma, me, and all that, but somebody's done it once or twice. But, so this is organized into 3 columns, and basically Blue Midnight was saying, so this is the standard, so this is like what Blue Midnight would say is kind of normal, what this would normally be called. This is gen chain based, so this is a system that I'll explain this in a minute, actually. So and then this is what they were also okay with. So Archie diminished, Archie augmented. So this is the 2 subminors, and this is the 2 super majors. So basically Archie is the same thing as super pyth. And I think the reason Blue Midnight was opting for Archie is because super is already used as a qualifier, or as a prefix, and it would be confusing. So you wouldn't say like super diminished or whatever, super diminished or whatever they were saying. So Archie as opposed to super pyth, but as a synonym. And then same thing here. So if you're in super pyth and you play a major scale, if you play a major scale, you get major second, super major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, super major sixth, super major seventh, and an octave. So if you start on the 7th note there, that's B. You go B, D, F. B to D is a subminor third, and D to F is a subminor third. So that's the super Pythagorean diminished chord. Also Archie diminished chord. Also, the Orwell temperament can be generated with that subminor third. So that's why this is under gen chain base. So if you stack 2 subminor thirds, you get this same triad. And then tiny, this is a reference to Chris Vaisvel's naming scheme. Chris Vaisvel calls this triad a tiny triad. So that's where this comes from. So on my original chart, the more convoluted one, where did I put it? Just had it. on my more convoluted chart from the other day, I was calling this Orwell, tiny, or subdiminished. Honestly, I think subdiminished is probably the most accessible out of all of these. But as you can see, we pretty much had everything in common except the Archie. And then subminor, minor, you're classifying as lesser, eutonal, semi-diminished. So semi-diminished, like compared to this, Archie diminished, I guess. And then greater otonal, semi-diminished. So basically lesser because it starts with a subminor third, and then greater because it starts with a minor third, then eutonal and otonal. The otonal also had that on here, eutonal diminished and otonal diminished. I didn't come up with this. Somebody on the Discord suggested that since this sort of approximates 6/7 6/7/9, it's like an otonal, and then the eutonal is kind of like the flip of that. It's literally that reversed, so it makes sense. And then subminor, major, Orwell semi-descending, Orwell subminor down. So subminor meaning it starts with a subminor third, and then down meaning it's a down 5. So it's kind of like a shorthand for down 5. And then I think, and then I'm kind of thinking out loud, or figuring this out loud. And then the Orwell semi-descending, I think it's because I don't know why. I don't know what semi-descending means. And then it has something to do with this. So the Orwell ascending, basically, if you take a subminor third and add a subminor third and then add another subminor third, you're taking that subminor third generator, the Orwell generator, and you're going up above the root with it 2 times. So it's ascending. So if we say semi-descending, I don't know what that means because we're not going. So what's a subminor third? I don't know where the semi comes from. I don't know what that means. So, because, yeah, I just don't get it. And then, well, it's, I don't know, maybe we actually look at Orwell Scale Workshop. We can kind of figure out what they mean by that. So it's 5 out of 22. And we're just going to do it 5 of these. Do an analysis. So, well, basically, like, it's got to be one of these two. So it's this and this. There's 2 of these. Oh no, hold on. It's this and this. There's only one of these. So What's going on with this? So the distance from here to here is I don't know what that means. I'm just confused. Semi-descending. Whatever. Okay, it just says it. This is what they're calling it. I don't know. I don't get it. And then Orwell sub minor down. Okay, so minor down, like down 5. Classical diminished. This is like this is the minor minor. I think that's why just in classical, because normally in classical music it's a 2 minor thirds makes a diminished chord. Also calls it chemic ascending. Also calls it minor down. So this is literally like kind of like a shorthand for minor down 5. And then it's also like the chemic. So basically they just put both the names. So I was calling that chemic or porcupine. Major down, kind of the same as this. So just down 5, sub minor. Again, not really any ambiguity there. See, they wrote down some alternatives, but you know, there's not really. These chords are pretty much decided. Classical minor, classical major. You can also call it near minor and near major. You know, it's called a minor or major. And then a super major. Okay, here we get into the augmented chords. So this is minor super major. They're calling this Sense of Magic descending. And then this major major, magic ascending. Here super major minor, Sense of Magic symmetric, magic symmetric, magic descending, Sense of Magic ascending. So this is where I'm going to talk about this gen chain stuff. And then also the lesser sense of wide, middle sense. So like the lesser just means the smaller intervals first, and then if it's middle, they're the same, or they're not the same. What the heck? I don't. So what I really dislike about this the most is it seems to be referencing so much stuff outside of 22 equal. So basically in 12 equal, if you look at your chords and stuff, so this is like a pure like RTT interpretation. There might be more to it than just strictly RTT, but this is like in the weeds and hyper like analytical theory. I mean, everything about this, it's like it's arranged by brightness. You know what I mean? So it's the darkest, and it gets progressively brighter. And then you have an Orwell semi-descending, but there's no Orwell semi-ascending. There's a chemic ascending, but there's no descending. So like what I don't and I get, so it's like this is like a reference. A lot of these terms they're basically like referencing the wider world of like temperament and what's going on in the wider world of temperament. But if you're playing in 22 equal and you know you're in 22 equal, every chord label doesn't need to reference every possibility. Like there would be some really easy ways to clean this up. For instance, with chemic, say you wanted to do chemic for this. Maybe they don't want to do chemic for this because there's other options written here. Uh, in fact, I noticed on this middle column, there's there's no selection here that is just the middle column. You know what I mean? So maybe they don't want to, but like, I guess this is just like referencing the technical term for it. You know, in the temperament interpretation, this would be a chemic ascending. So basically, a chemic being that minor third if you stacked two minor thirds, just like with the Orwell. You use the sub minor third as your generator, stack two of them, you get an Orwell ascending. Blah blah blah. So it's the same thing here. Like Sense of Magic has a generator, and so the Sense of Magic ascending, it's that 9/7 super major third that's ascending here. So this Sense of Magic symmetric, if you take the root and you go up a super major third, but then you also go below it a super major third, or a sorry. It's not below it a super major third, is it? That would just be another. So what is this one? Sense of Magic symmetric. So sub super major minor. Oh yeah, it is. So yeah, if you let me show you this camera. So if you this is a Sense of Magic ascending. So you can see these are all equidistant. So here's the symmetric. So basically, if you took the same note and went up a super major third, you'd get back to your root. You get back to the C. So you can kind of think of this chord as being like down a super major third and up a super major third and inverted. So since one of the notes is a super major third below the root and the other note is a super major third above the root, you could say it's symmetric. Now, this is not a concept that we usually use to describe chords at all. Normally, when we describe chords, when we move them around, we just use inversion terminology. You just say first inversion, second inversion, blah, blah, blah. We don't usually describe chords according to their... but the thing is, there's not really stuff like this where one chord inverts to a different, like one triad inverts to a different triad. So this sort of system is kind of more flexible, like it can describe more things. You can just take you can arbitrarily determine any generator, and you can establish, a group of notes that you call a chord, and you can describe it so long as they are unified by that generator. You could describe it using a phrase like this, like Sense of Magic symmetric. And I think it's honestly, it's a little too heady. I think it's a little confusing to call this chord symmetric, because I don't think it's intuitive to a player. Honestly, like the ascending looks more symmetric. Now, it's not that complicated. You could definitely learn it, and it's extremely logical too. Obviously, it's just so different. And maybe this style of chord naming is gonna be the future of xenharmonic music, especially if there's like tons of like people doing like all these different tunings. The thing I like about the RTT terminology is it doesn't care what tuning you're playing with. It works for everything basically. So that I like, but I think because it's so comprehensive, sometimes it's not. It's like it's almost like, you know, are you using the right tool for the job? Like it's almost a little too powerful for what we're trying to do. If we're just trying to name the chords of one tuning system, it seems to make sense to just keep everything confined to the tuning system. Um, but this does make sense. Like, Sense of Magic is this takes two super major thirds, they ascend. If one of them, if you invert it, it's symmetric. If you invert it again, it's the descending. And then the same thing applies to the magic chords. So magic ascending is the quote unquote magic triad. And then here would be the symmetric, I think. Yeah. And then here would be the descending. So it's not hard to. I mean, it goes in that order too for both of them. So it goes ascending, symmetric, descending, ascending, symmetric, descending. But what's weird about it is like the symmetric one is the first inversion. So if you're thinking in terms of triads, like magic is major, major. Isn't that the magic triad? And it's also like if you're looking at the magic temperament, that's kind of the first one that pops up. If you just think about the generator, you just think about that, you know, like down major third generator, stacking it, you get that magic triad right away. So I think the terminology can be sort of counterintuitive, because if you just called this plain magic, then you'd have symmetric and descending. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. So I kind of prefer my system that I kind of stumbled into, which I'll go back over when I'm done rambling about this. But I don't think they're necessarily even advocating for that as a naming scheme. It looks like, you know, classical augmented for the magic triad, which is how I label it on my new system here, the more straightforward one. And then they put middle senso wide, middle magic wide, greater magic. So, and that's the other thing, like saying middle, like say you called this augmented or even just called it magic. And then you're gonna call your first inversion middle. Like that's weird. It's weird. It's like just another way of saying the same thing. It's just confusing. So I don't know. I get that it's logical. It fits with this like how you stack the generators and all that. It's a very like theory driven approach. I understand why theoreticians might prefer this language. I think most musicians, although to be fair, most musicians aren't even going to bother learning this shit no matter what we call it. But, you know, of the 12 musicians out in the world who are going to be willing to learn this shit, I think maybe two of them are actually going to be willing to learn this. And of the two, maybe one of them would actually prefer this. I'm thinking I'm the one who wouldn't. So, yeah, you know, maybe one fucking guy's out there who's like, yeah, dude, let's do that. Um, but I don't know. I don't know. What do I know? So, yeah, so this is my new system. This is, and this I think is more like what we already have for like 12 Udo. I think this is a little more kind of plain and to the point. Probably a little friendlier for kind of people who are not as experienced. This I think it makes sense if you're gonna spend the time to learn it. I don't find it intuitive at all. Um, and I'm a guy who will sit down to figure out how it works. I could memorize this. Maybe it would become intuitive. I think it's a little, I think it's referencing too much outside of 22 though. So that brings me back to this. So everything I just said about this, that's what the people on Facebook were complaining about this. But I think more of the people on the Discord think that this is not technical enough. So I think this is kind of my original proposition. I think is maybe a healthy middle ground. Um, I'm gonna put this out there and share it with people. Again, I think this is probably the most accessible, but I actually prefer this system. Now, this is the first thing I came up with. So let me explain why I prefer this system though, because I came up with this yesterday and I'm very satisfied with the layout of this. It's very clean and I know other people will like it, but it is really clunky in a weird way. Now this adds a new layer of complexity because it adds new symbols and stuff. Doesn't add all these symbols. I think I've narrowed down the symbols if you're to add symbols. But I think the symbols are good because, in short, they get rid of the up fives, the down fives, the down sharps, and the up flats in the chord symbol. Now, is that necessary? I don't know that it is necessary. But the other advantage, which is, I think, also really nice, is that it ties the chords together similarly to how the thing that's nice about the temperament names is that it ties the chords together. But like here, for instance, like if we were to call this augmented and then call these magic, it would be like kind of weird. But I think it also kind of explains what's happening with the chords better. So it's not a perfect system, and it's not perfectly logical either, which is what I think people don't like about it. Which I get it, but I think it's actually more, to me, it's more intuitive. And I'm saying this because I've come up with both systems, and ever since I've come up with both these systems and I've been messing around with the chords and stuff, it's so much easier to think in these terms. As soon as I came up with this system, like I understood it the same day. It did not take long. Once you actually start playing with it, the names just kind of make sense on an intuitive level. Now, if you like scrutinize the details, maybe they don't make sense. If you like know the ins and outs of temperament theory, maybe there's some contradictions in there. I don't know the ins and outs, so I don't care. It doesn't really bother me. And I think most musicians who are going to be learning this stuff, they don't know them either. Like I know them well enough to be able to explain where the names come from, but anyway, so basically the biggest difference is the use of the term Orwell is the thing I'm probably the least attached to. The reason being, I think Orwell obviously is a reference to George Orwell. It's a little, I don't know, when you're just talking out loud, like Orwell minor, Orwell major, it is sort of I'm almost like maybe like a monosyllabic term, or like a easier word to say would be better. Um, but lacking a better term. I've also been entertaining the idea of like Wolf minor and Wolf major, But the problem is that it changes what you would call this. So the subdiminished, you call Orwell diminished. And this I talked about the other day. I'm just gonna like briefly go back over it. And then it's got the utonal diminished, which is the same as Blue Midnight. And then Orwell minor, which is sub and major. And then, so the Orwell diminished triad, the Orwell minor triad, and the Orwell major triad, they're all in Orwell 5. So if you look at, do I still have that? Where'd they go? If you look at Orwell 5, well, I'll just play it. So I think I have it pulled up on here. So here's Orwell on the keyboard. So you can see all the notes that Orwell lit up. Here's that. Sorry. So here's 2 sub minor thirds. That's that Orwell diminished triad. And then here's that Orwell minor. So sub minor, major. So that's just a major chord right there. And then where's the major? And then there's the major right there. So major, sub minor. So these chords, if you do the simplest version of Orwell in 22, all 3 of those triads are there. So they're all kind of unified by this scale and by this generator, this sub minor generator. And if you just, if you just learn that, like how hard is that to learn? If you just play with the scale once, or just learn about the scale, or just learn the association, oh, sub minor third has to do with Orwell, then all the Orwell chords have to do with a sub minor third. And that's that. So you have the Orwell diminished, and then you have the Orwell minor, and then the Orwell major. And you notice the Orwell minor, it's like a funny sounding minor chord. I mean, it sounds like a weird minor chord. And then the Orwell major sounds like a weird major chord. And all it means is down 5, because it's got a major third and a sub minor third. It makes it down 5. So, to me that seems fine. Like to me that feels pretty intuitive. It's like I'm not thinking about, oh, it has a down 5 the whole time. To me that's a little more like, I know it has a down 5, but it's like I don't know if I'm explaining this well enough, but it just kind of makes sense. They all belong to that same kind of sound world. And then the chemic, it's the same deal. It's just the name of this. If you're in Porcupine, I don't think I have Porcupine loaded up here, but yeah, I do. So if you're in Porcupine, every other note of Porcupine makes a minor third. And if you stack 2 of them, it's just, well, really if you stack 4, you get that chemic chord, or that, whatever you call that. And then, so anyway, for short, we call it chemic triad. You could call it a chemic triad. You just put a little K. And then that just means 2 minor thirds. So I get that not everyone's going to agree with that. Like, you might think that's a diminished chord. And it is. It's a type of diminished chord. Just like this is a type of diminished chord. So yeah, I mean it's a little more convoluted of a system, but this is just like a random chord but it's just two minor thirds. It has nothing to do with the other chords really. But yeah, there could be ways like to kind of like organize this information, like you know, the diminished chords, the augmented chords, the major chords, the minor chords, and like the majors and the minors would include like the up fives and the flat fives. So yeah, I can see that there's like different ways you can approach this. And then anyway, so this sense of minor and sense of major and sense of magic. So the sense of magic was just that same do I have that scale on here? Yes. Well, not on C though. Oh well, it's fine. So if you take this chord, so this is the sense of magic, or this is machine or whatever is the name of the but here's that sense of magic triad. I call that sense of major because it's kind of got the major and then the minor. I mean, it just has that shape and that feeling, more or less. And this is kind of got the minor feeling. So the sense of minor, and it starts with a minor third, and this one starts with a super major third. So instead of saying super major up 5 and minor up 5, you could say sense of minor and sense of major. And then instead of putting the up 5, you could put a Z, capital Z, or I guess lowercase would be fine too. And yeah, the other thing people don't like about this is the letters seem kind of arbitrary, which they sort of are, but I just picked symbols that are not in the regular, they're not notes. Like Z is a backwards S, so that's kind of what I was thinking there. And W's in or well, right? And it's not an O. O would look like a diminished symbol. And R kind of just looks funny when you write it out. It's just as a modifier. It just looks kind of out of place. And yeah. And then with magic, just J. There's just the J sound. M-H-A-I-K. And so with magic, it's the same thing. If you have that magic, I don't have magic on here. I don't even know if it's worth it to do it. It's not. It's fine. If you're inverting magic, this is the smaller third, then the bigger third. It's the bigger third, then the smaller third. It's just calling that magic minor, magic major. And that's like a magic diminished, basically the regular magic chord. So, it's kind of weird because the magic minor actually starts with a major third. But I don't know. It's kind of like thinking like if you just compare the chords back to back, it's like a relatively minor. Like if that's a magic triad major, it's like a minor, and that's like a diminished. So it's like saying in this realm of like magic. But yeah. Anyway, that's what I've still been kind of calling these to myself. And I get why people think it's a little maybe they preferred something else, which is why, came up with this other one too. So I think this is probably more what people in general are gonna want. But I really like this system also because it gets rid of the ups and the downs in the chord symbols on the 5 every time. I don't like seeing a bunch of up 5s and down 5s and blah blah blah. But I think it's just a matter of preference. I could definitely see, like, say I wrote something in 22 and I wanted to write out the chord symbols. If I wanted to use this system, I would have to put a key. Like, I would have to basically put this up top and put equal signs. Because I think this you can actually figure out. So even though I prefer this, I don't expect it to have the same kind of support as this. But I don't know. I really do like this. And again, as I like play through the chords and stuff, I don't know. I feel like it's like a hard sell. I'm not really trying to sell it even. I'm just saying, matter of fact, like, these names just make sense. It's honestly, it's a lot harder for me. Like, every time I'm trying to figure out, is it up 5, down 5, blah blah blah, down sharp 5, I have to spend a lot more time like remembering what the chord is. Even though this is logical, in a weird way, it's less intuitive. This feels way more intuitive because if you understand the inversions and you think of the chords as belonging to families, like, the magic stuff makes sense. And then even if you just like look at the chord, if you're familiar with, like, changing chords and stuff, you can see kind of the way the voices are moving. It in a weird way just makes more sense to just think of this as like the minor version, the major version. And then same thing with these. This is like the augmented version. That's the major version. And then that'd be the minor version. So yeah. So yeah, I think we're all caught up on that now. And yeah. That's all I got for that. So I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm just going to play some chords and stuff and kind of noodle around in 22. Now that we have, actually a couple different systems that I think work. We have at least 3 that are comprehensive in terms of the triads and functional. We can pretty much name any chord we want now, because the nice thing about 22 is adding the 7ths is really straightforward. You literally just add the 7th. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna noodle around in 22, maybe try out some different scales and stuff. I've been looking at the different Moss scales and just kind of going through some of these scales and just like figuring out some of the chords. I found some cool chords earlier. So what did I find earlier? I found a couple of these, and I wrote out some of the different ways of saying the chord. So here's one. It was like down B, D, up F, and an A. And so these are the different ways to notate it. So here, so it's not very big on the screen. Oh, y'all can't even see this. So this chord, it's right here. Make that font big. Is there a way to zoom on this? There we go. Let's just make it all big. Zoom in. Okay, so like this one right here. Be down B. So this, you know, with my weird system, it'd be down B chemic neutral 7, and then with the more logical system, it'd be down B minor down 5 neutral 7. And then if you went with I don't know what Blue Midnight would call sevenths, but this would just be a down B diminished something 7. I don't know what they would call their sevens. But yeah. So those are the two things you call it. Down B chemic neutral 7 or down B minor flat or down 5 neutral 7. Down B minor down 5 neutral 7. And you know, you're probably thinking, well, who the hell knows what chemic is? And it's like, well, if you just took 10 seconds to fucking learn it, you'd know it. But, you know, you'd have to learn it, yes. Just like you'd have to learn the down 5s and the up 5s and the down sharps. You'd have to learn something regardless. But I get it. I get it. So here's another one. D, down F sharp, down A, C. Oh, I really like this one. This is a cool chord. I'm not playing a D though. So D, down F sharp, down A, C. So that would be a D down 5 7, which is fine. And there's nothing wrong with it. Or D Orwell. Wait. I'm not playing the right notes. Let's see. Oh, I see. So D down F sharp. I am, okay. Flat 7. So D Orwell major, flat 7. So yeah, that Orwell triad doesn't sound very good on its own. As soon as you add that flat 7, it's like pretty nice. But yeah, Orwell's the one I'm the least attached to, I think. I just wish there was a different name for that, but okay, and then yeah, I'll just write it out. Yeah, I was like, the reason was because here's why. It's just a plain 7. So I was like D Orwell major 7. That's confusing because is it a major 7 or what? So I took out the major and I said flat, and I was like, oh, if you said major flat 7, and then I was like, well, wouldn't you default to major when you're just talking? But you wouldn't necessarily. I think in Orwell maybe you would default to subdiminished. So it's probably better to say major. And just for clarity, just say flat 7, even if it's a regular. I mean, you could say major 7 because it's not a major 7. It would have to be major 7 if it was a major 7, but flat 7 would like resolve that. But this is one where I think saying down 5 7 wins. D Orwell major dom. Oh yeah, I don't know why I forgot about that. Yeah, dominant 7 would be good. D Orwell major dominant would be fine. Yeah, dominant 7 or dom or whatever. Or D Orwell dom. I mean that's the other thing. If you said Orwell dominant, it would definitely be the same thing as this, because it couldn't be diminished. It would have to be this. So you could shorthand it to that. That would not be bad. But yeah, this one, like down 5 7 is not bad. D down 5 7, it's pretty clean. Um, I mean, technically, the dominant refers to the fifth scale degree, but like just in like normal music conversation, if you say dominant, you're talking about a chord quality. So like the technical theoretical term, that's probably inaccurate, but like just if I'm playing in a if I'm talking to a guitarist and I say dominant chord, he knows what I'm talking about. We're talking about the seventh chords. And a lot of times if you're doing like a lot of jazzier chords, like you're doing a lot of different seventh seventh chords, you'll hear that term dominant a lot because it's easy to get confused and like when you're talking between like minor seven, major seven, seven, like you hear the phrase seven over and over again. It all mushes together. So I like to say dominant just to mean that chord. All right, so here was another one. I can't remember if I like this one or not. So B flat, D, up F, down A. Oh, that's interesting. So that's a so if I look at this, I'm thinking this is a sense of major with the some kind of seven. I don't know what kind of seven that is. Major seven. So like that to me is more intuitive, but it's B flat, super major, up five, major seven. But I was thinking B flat, senza major, major seven. Like as soon as I came out with this senza major and the magic major and minor, that makes it's just so intuitive to me. This is not. This is better on paper, or this is better if you haven't done any spent any time with it. But B flat, super major, up five, major seven. That's super clunky, man. That's the other thing is you have to say up and down and all around. It's just annoying. Um, Depending on context, DK over B flat. Oh, is it? You're right. Yep, it could be. Yep. Yeah, nice. Um, yeah, so I guess it'd be a chemic or uh, double minor. Did you see the new chart? Were you here earlier? I went over the new chart. The whole first part of the stream, I went over all the systems, or maybe you saw it on Discord. But this is the new. I'd like to know what if you like this, if you prefer this. So it's very clean, as you can see, and everything is in the chord. But yeah, I basically came up with this to appeal to the angry masses because I shared my other list in the Facebook group. I shared it on Discord and it didn't really get a lot of response. It got some responses on Facebook, but there was a few negative ones, and mostly people were saying they did not like the temperament terms, and that if they were to show this to a musician, they wouldn't want to explain the temperament terms to them, basically. So I came up with this. which it just says the name of the chord and what's in it. So like minor up 5, major down 5. But yeah, I was just ranting about how like even though this is more logical, I got used to that other system, and like it's almost as soon as I came out with it, it just clicked. And now that I've come up with this cleaner system, it's a lot harder to use. It looks way better on paper. But yeah, that's on the tuning of the year thread as well. Um, but okay, where were we? So these are some chords I was doing earlier that I thought were cool. So we just did this one. So down E, G, B flat, D. And this I got from a mode. It's a Mod Moss, a porcupine. It's this porcupine bright harmonic 11th mode. It's like the third chord of that, I guess. I really like this chord. And this is a diminished with a neutral 7th. That's all it is. And that's true in both of these naming systems. It's a diminished neutral system. Neutral 7. So that one's consistent across both systems. And then let's try this one out. So up F. But yeah, I really like that chord. Sounds really nice. I guess it's like a half diminished. I've always liked half diminished chords. Alright, so up F, down E, down A. Wait, why are these out of order? That's weird. So up F. Is this right? Down E, down A, D. Oh, was this like a random? This might have been a random chord I played. I think I played it like down here, down E, down A, and then D. Yeah, I think I was playing like this. This is just like a random chord. I played it and I was like, what would you call that? And that would be a 6 chord basically. It'd be like a up F minor, down 6 with a neutral 7. So probably up F minor, neutral 7, down 13 would probably just look a little cleaner than putting 6 next to 7. It's basically the same thing. And alternatively, you could think of it as a D chemic down 9 up over F. Those both are really clunky. And this is consistent across both systems. So chemic is obviously not, but this would be diminished, D diminished in a Midnight Blues system. And it would be minor down 5 in my more logical system. So D minor down 5, down 9 over up F. Over up F. Oh my god. So annoying. Hey, variable, what's up, dude? The only bad thing is mixing ups and downs with implied ups and downs. Down major. I think it makes sense if names with minor, major, and stuff have implied ups and downs, but sharps and flats are fifth spaced. Sharps and flats are fifth spaced. Well, I'm not using up minor or down minor, so I think that avoids that. Like up and down is only going to refer to like an alteration of a scale degree, or like a Edo step of a note, like a Edo step, Edo shift, a step, whatever you call that. You know what I'm talking about. It's only going to apply to a note or a scale degree, like the like the note name or a scale degree. It's not going to apply to a chord quality. Except in the new logical system, it'll apply to the 5, but it's not a quality. But that's one thing I like about my old messy system is that there's no ups or downs in the chord names. It's going good, variable. I have this new system. Have you looked at the new system that I posted on the Discord? This whole first part of this stream, I ran it about these. I ran it about the new system. I talked about Midnight Blues system. I said my thoughts on all of that. And I spent, I don't know, I guess probably an hour doing that. So if you're interested in that, that's on the first bit of the stream. But yeah, I think that different situations you might prefer one over the other. I think if I were to, I think for most musicians, this is going to be better. It's going to be preferable. I mean, I don't know if better is the right word, but I still like this thing that I came up with at first. I say my, but it's the emotional my, because actually this had more to do with input from the Discord and stuff. This one is actually just more logical, I think. This has more to do with people complaining that this one is too confusing. But yeah, I think personally, I'm probably just going to keep going with this because it's already kind of ingrained. And I'll just be doing a lot of translating between the two systems. And hopefully one day 22 will be popular. And popular enough that, people will figure out what they want to do. I feel pretty good about this because before yesterday or day before yesterday, as far as I'm aware, there was never a comprehensive naming system for the triads. And honestly, once you have a comprehensive naming system for the triads, you're pretty much covered because alterations are really not that hard. I definitely could see there being some weird situations, and maybe there's some I'm not saying that I think nothing's going to change or need to be changed, but this has gotten us from let's say 30 to 40% to 80%. It's a huge step forward. And it also just puts it out there that, you can call the chords something. It's a tuning system that's not 12, and you can give every chord a name. And I mean, what tuning systems have that right now? I can probably use this naming. Yeah, so I posted all these, or I posted both of these on the Discord. So if you want to reference one or the other or both, they are there. And, there's a lot of conversations in the thread. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is good because, even if you don't like it, now at least there's something to challenge. Whereas before we had no system at all. And, I would like to see an ideal naming system. I would like to see one that makes pretty much everybody happy. And even more than that, I would like to see people actually, getting excited about writing music in 22 and forming bands with 22 equal guitars and stuff. And I think having like more theory for people to learn. It's like if you're just like exploring this stuff, if you see that there's a fleshed out system or a relatively fleshed out system that you can actually like the thing is that's awesome is that now like before the other day there were so many chords I would play where I could just play a chord and have no idea what to call it. Like now I have two names for this chord. I can call it Orwell major or I can call it major down 5. And I already know I can call it one of those things. And it's there. And I can just put a label on it and I can move on. And it's in my head and like I can transpose it and I can kind of like incorporate it into my analysis of the scale and I can get a familiarity with that sound. And like when I posted this other list on the Facebook group, a lot of people like one of the really big 22 Ito composers was responding to it, and he was saying that he doesn't even have any use for a lot of these dissonant chords. Like he basically was saying he never uses them, so by implication he doesn't really think it's necessary to name them. And someone else was just like saying they think the whole thing is stupid. And a couple people, one person was straight up just like this is good or this is a good idea or whatever. But they said that we should not use like upper and lowercase. And it's so funny like how by like doing something like this you like arouse so much what's the word for it? Like people get upset in a weird way. But I think it's good cuz like this is just this is just movement in a positive direction. And if people are arguing with it, it's just because it's weird that this has taken this long to happen. And that's it. Like why has 22 been a tuning that people have written tomes or have written like papers about and shit? It's like, but you can't even name the triads. And now you can name all the triads. Rage bait to get people talking about it. Yeah. 22 Zen wiki page could use a revision. Major down 5. Since the measure makes sense for 0, 8, 16, 22. 2 pure 9, 7 stacked to flat 5, 3. Yeah, I like this. I like this right here. But I can understand why some people prefer a different system. They prefer the cleaner system. I think this is probably a necessary step for most people. And it's kind of good to just understand. One thing that you don't get from this, that you do get from this, is certain connections. Like, if you look at just like all the up 5s, you see the minor up 5. So we in this system, the minor up 5 and the major up 5 are called Orwell minor and Orwell major. So you see that connection there, but you don't see the super major up 5. You don't see the connection to magic with the up 5. So that's something you kind of miss. You miss out on looking at this. But this naming scheme here, you see the connection between the Orwell diminished and the Orwell major and minor, which maybe that's a tenuous connection to begin with. But point being, like, different naming schemes emphasize different things. Here, you call this augmented, you call this inversions. major down sharp 5 and super major down sharp 5, like I kind of feel like you have to just learn at some point that these chords are inversions of each other. And same thing with the Sense of Magic ones, like super major sharp 5, super major up 5. And the minor up 5 are all like inversions of each other. It's just not that intuitive here. Is that correct? What is it? But here you see the sense of prefix. You're like, oh, okay, sense of something, sense of minor, sense of magic, sense of major. Okay, those are all inversions of each other, and they're different chords. Magic minor, magic major. Those are inversions, and they're different chords. You might think the same thing with the Orwell too, though. So I could see why that would be confusing, but it's really, I mean, how long does it take you to go, oh, that's not the same for Orwell? Why would it be their sub minor? Sub minor doesn't stretch an octave. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard to follow the logic of this, and to me, but you know, it's the first thing I came up with. So obviously, it's just like maybe it's more of a reflection of how my mind works. Hey, Mr. Lucky, what's up, dude? People can't stick with one tuning apparently. No, in general, they can't. Take me, for example, jump from 1922 26. Seriously, start pioneering 26 Edo. You love that system. Yeah, I think, I think digging into one and just like going for it is like is a good move. Like, I'm kind of like, I've been wanting to do that with 22. I mean, I've been going back to 22 anyway, like over and over again, but like now that we did the tuning of the year, I'm kind of like using that. I'm kind of like leaning into that too to sort of keep that process going. You don't think of it as G sharp on C though, you think of it as down A. Well, yeah, that's fine. It's just that yeah, you could spell that chord C down F down A if you wanted to. Because it's kind of like a chordal. It's almost like a chordal thing. But yeah. So I think that's everything I did earlier. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna mess around, try to find some more chords. Let's just name some chords. So and maybe even if anybody has some chords they want me to play, like we have the language for it now. If anybody wants me to try a chord out, feel free to name a chord. Western notation breaks down, super major becomes down 4. We can hide some of these weird edge cases with the chord names. Yeah, I mean, I try to keep it simple with the triads. Just, don't worry about spelling. Just think about, you know, the mathematical distance in Edo steps. And there's obviously going to be like weird stuff. Like, none of this looks at augmented really or diminished really or like tetrads. No, say any chord you want. Like because the thing is that you can basically name any chord now, as long as it's not too clustery. But you could pretty much, I mean, actually that'd be interesting too. Would be to think of like what would be a chord you can't name, or like what is a chord that you think wouldn't, because basically you can name any seventh chord because all you have to do is identify the type of seventh. It's going to be either minor 7, which is just plain 7, neutral 7, major 7, or super major 7. If the 7 gets flatter than a minor 7, it's some type of 6. So you can just alter a 6. And I think basically anything is covered, really. So 0, 8, 16, 24. Okay, let's try this. So 0, 8, 16, 24. So that's sense. So you could call this a sense of magic triad. Now the only thing that's really funny here is this. This is like a up flat 2. So you could either call this a super major augmented up flat 9 or a sense of magic up flat 9. So you could call that like C. So if you use the my new funny notation, it'd be C, Z, up flat 9. And if you used the more standard notation, it'd be wait, how do you do that one actually? I don't remember. Oh, sharp 5s. Sharp 5 and then up flat 9. What? Why does that happen? Undo. Go away. All right. C, E, G sharp, B sharp. Yeah, I guess if you spelled it B sharp, it would be like an augmented 7 or whatever. But I would not call it that. It's just I would try to make at this point in time, until my brain can think about this stuff more clearly, I would just call things like that. I would just simplify it. Just call it the simpler enharmonic equivalent. The thirds is so massive it stops being a 7th. Oh, I see. That's a super major stack. I don't know why I didn't notice that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's cool. That's a cool chord, actually. Okay, so yeah, sense of magic stack. Yeah, that's a good name for it. What about C super major sharp 5, sharp 7? Yeah, that would be fine too. Yeah, that'd be good. Could you call it a stack notation? I like the term stack. I think um, stuff like that you can do. The thing is, I don't know how to do it. Like, how would you do it? Because if I could do to the third, but the thing is that looks like up. You know what I mean? So what would you do? If I could type in superscript, I would do that, but like you can't type in superscript in notes, you can't do it in Discord. So like what? I mean, how would you notate that? So you could do 3 stack or something like that. I don't know. I don't even know. But yeah, you could definitely do like C super major sharp 7. That's kind of sick. or super major sharp 5 sharp 7, or C sense of magic sharp 7, or C sense of magic down flat 9 or up flat 9. I think those are all fine. Like, you would know what notes to play. Instead of using various freehand dies, okay with frequencies. What about C sense of magic 4 stack? Wouldn't it be a 3 stack though? Or are you saying what would that be? For example, some devices that go up or descending to 4 notes versus 3/3. Four stack for 4 notes. I would say you're stacking 3 of the intervals, so I would call it a 3 stack for 4 notes. Yeah, you're stacking the third. All right, so I'm just gonna play a random chord and see if we can name it. So it sounds interesting. Okay, so we have 4 notes here. So what could this chord be called? So we have, I'm just gonna write down the notes. So we have F sharp, F sharp, we have D flat, B flat. Oops. F sharp. What do we have? F sharp, D flat, B flat, and then we have up E flat. So F sharp is G up, right? G down, I mean. It's down G. Okay. So let's see. So down. So where's the third? D flat to B flat. Shouldn't that be a minor third? That's not a minor third though. No, that's a sixth. What am I saying? So let's rearrange these. So B flat to D flat. And then down G. So down G to B flat to D flat to up E flat. So up E flat. So this is chemic. And then what the heck is this? It's a sub minor third. So from down E flat, this note is that a tritone? No, it's a major 6. Right? Yeah. So maybe I should put this on the bottom. So that's a sub minor minor. So that's a U tonal diminished, and then another minor third. So, D flat to B flat is a diminished seventh, right? So diminished seventh is a sixth, right? Yes. So I think maybe on this you would call it a D flat, utonal diminished six, or maybe just diminished seven. Does that make a diminished seventh? What's a diminished seventh? Is diminished just flattened twice? So major seven, or down major seven, I guess, would be 20 minus 3 would be 7. That'd be major six. This is flat seven. So I guess you could call it down flat seven. Or major six or whatever. You'd call that F sharp diminished down six. So F sharp diminished down six. So what were the notes again? F sharp, up E flat, D flat, B flat. Oh, it's a subminor stack on the top. So yeah, this is one of those weird ones. I think there's a bunch of names for it because it's basically a diminished chord. Because if you went up one more minor third, you'd be back. So yeah, F. But yeah, I think probably it's safer on diminished chords to just name the six. So yeah, like down six. So F sharp diminished down six. But yeah, those diminished chords are definitely have, like, if you extend them out to the 4-note versions, those are probably the most like ambiguous in terms of like how should you name it. I honestly like don't even want to like get into diminished sevenths and augmented sevenths. I mean, maybe at some point it would make sense to, because it probably would like line up with this chord spellings and stuff better. But it's so annoying. Like, navigating that is so annoying. I think down G to down D sharp makes more sense, as it suggests a sense of magic triad without 9/7. Suggests a sense of magic triad without 9/7. Let's see. So down G to down D sharp. There's no down D sharp though, is there? Oh, this is down D sharp. Oh, you're right. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't even see that connection there. That's cool. Is there a way to rationalize this with the sense of magic logic? So we have D flat. We have B flat. Not really. Okay. Just create the most genius ideas, command legions of minions who seek to learn the ways of geniosity and rule your rivals with an iron fist. Easy to succeed. Hey, Mr. Leaky, have you kept up with the? Have you seen the naming schemes as our? Have you seen these? Have you seen this and this? Look at that. Pure logic. This will make your father proud. Look at that. Not mine though. He won't care. And then this is pure emotion. We have the multifaceted naming schemes. Paleac, have you seen the different naming schemes? Do you have an opinion? Did you want to share? I'm curious what people think. Like, what if anyone who's seen the different systems, if you have a preference and don't mind sharing. I've already said my opinions on these. But so far we have 3 complete triad systems. This is from Midnight Blue. This was posted today. I talked about it at the beginning of the stream. This I came out with yesterday and shared, or technically, yeah, yesterday. And then this I came out with a couple days before that. And I kind of made this in response to some criticisms of this. So I think this one is more to make the people happy. This one I'm kind of still thinking in these terms. I think this is cleaner but clunkier in a weird way. This one kind of is more fun and it's very intuitive for me. Fitting things to the subminor, minor, neutral, major, super major, etc. scheme is the best way to go about it. Find someone who's finally here to assert great dominance upon the rats and create order amongst fools. Whoa. Cool. Yeah, I mean, there's no neutral thirds in 22. Orwell or Sensically Magician shouldn't be third. Yeah, they're not third qualities. It's not describing the thirds. It's describing a the way the chords relate to each other. But basically, like the sense, yeah, yeah. I mean, so basically I've explained this a couple times already. The beginning of this stream I went over it. I did it the other day too. So I'm not gonna go super deep, but basically, like the sense of magic chord, I'll show you on right here. Like this is the sense of magic chord. If you invert it, it makes a sense of major chord. And if you invert that again, it makes a sense of minor chord. So the thing is that with 6 of your chords and 22 equal, the thirds are so wide that they invert to other triads. But the other triads that they invert to are still built off of thirds. So it's kind of an interesting property of these triads, and this applies to the magic chords and to the sense of magic chords. So like a magic inverts to a magic minor, which inverts to a magic major, and I'm calling it magic minor. It makes sense to me. Magic minor, magic major. I think it makes sense. It doesn't even have a minor third in it. It's major third, super major third. So I understand why it's like confusing, but it's sort of like why couldn't they all just be called one chord and inversions of that one chord? Yeah, it's a great question. Because they are not. No, because they're not the same. It's if you define a triad. So here's why this happens. It's because the thirds end up. It's because you have the super major third. So basically what happens is that if you have a normal quote unquote triad, like most triads, like a C major triad, if you invert it, so if you're in root position, you're major third, minor third. If you invert it, you're minor third, perfect fourth. You'd be crazy to describe a G to C as a third. You know what I mean? It's just not. But it's a fourth, right? If you have a super major third, it's also kind of like a sub 4. It's kind of like a sub fourth. So basically, if you invert a magic triad, you get, magic's just major third, major third. If you invert it, you get major third, and then you get this sub fourth. But the sub fourth is still a third. It's still like functionally a third. So if you were to call it magic first inversion, you would have to do that even if the chord was rooted differently. So like say that chord occurred somewhere in your scale, but then the regular magic chord didn't occur in the scale. You know what I mean? Well, I mean, I guess it would, because you could invert it. But you would call like 3 of your chords an inversion instead of them having a name. You know what I mean? So, or you wouldn't even call 3 chords in your scale an inversion instead of them having a name. One would be the inversion, and then you'd run into some other chords, and then you could arrange the notes differently so that you would have like the different inversions of the chord. But it's a weird thing. So when you start doing it, you kind of see the necessity for it. So like, for instance, this is a magic minor on the same root. It's a different sounding chord. And then there's a magic minor on the same root. The thing is that when you invert the chord, it creates a different quality. So could you say first and second inversion? You could, but it would just make it confusing in a different direction. And then the other thing is that you wouldn't want to once you started adding extensions to the chord. Because the thing is that you can add a seventh to any of these chords. Like, then what are you going to call them? You know what I mean? So it would be very confusing. So like, for instance, say you added a major seventh to the magic triad. So that's a magic stack, right? A 3 stack. You could add that same major seventh to the magic minor. So what do you want to call that? You want to call that magic first inversion major 7? Like, what does that even mean? And then what about the other inversion? Magic second inversion major 7? It's not even inverted. It's just a stack of thirds. Like, it starts to make no sense if you start adding notes on top of it. It's just like too confusing. It's a lot simpler and cleaner to just give every chord its own name. Now, you don't have to give them temperament names, but I like the temperament names personally. But you could name them like this. So the other option is you call magic augmented, and then you call the first inversion version of the chord the major down sharp 5, and you call this one the super major down sharp 5, and that'd be fine too. And you could still solve that dilemma of not having to refer to a root position triad as an inversion. You treat them as still in root position, feel them as separate entities that happen to be inversions. Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of putting it. Something very similar happens in the super major chord inversions 23, turning into subminor chords. Yes, exactly. And that happens with the Sensomagic triad. When you invert it, first time you have a super major followed by a minor. The second time you get super major and the minor. But actually, if super major inverts to sub minor, it's probably pretty normal. If it's still stacking to a fifth, you probably don't have that same issue. But because like it's normal for like a sub minor triad, it's sub minor super major, then super major sub minor, and then super major perfect fourth. So the thing is, if there's no perfect fourth in your inversions, like if it never gets big enough to make a perfect fourth, then this becomes a thing where you're inverting triads to other distinct triads. Inversion implies a different root in your opinion. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they technically invert, but they also invert to new chords. So, depending on what's going on in the music, like you could play the inversion, like you could play one of these inverted chords over the chord, and then the bassist is playing some root that's probably going to make it feel rooted in a different way. I think it makes these chords... The thing is, this doesn't happen in 12 equal because the augmented chord is symmetrical. So every time you invert the augmented chord, what the heck, in 12, it's the same quality chord. So in 22, since that's not the case, the augmented chords are like really way more interesting. I feel like you could write a lot more interesting stuff using augmented type chords in 22 because they have different flavors. All right, so but yeah, this is the straightforward version, and this is the other version. But yeah, I kind of explain it on the tuning of the year 22 thread, and also explained it all at the beginning of the stream quite a bit. So all right, let's play some more random chords. Let's see if we can name them. So what would this be? So, these are all going to be in one key. So we have F, E, B, and G. This one will be easy, I think. F, B, E, G. This is like a normal chord. So how do you arrange that in thirds? Or as close as you can to thirds. E, G, B, F, right? So E, G, B, F. So the F is like a flat 9. So that's just a E sub minor. No, E sub diminished. Is that a flat 9 or what is that? What's the 9 of an E? Would be F sharp. Yeah, flat 9. Okay. So, but the 9 is in the root, is the root. So that makes me want to call this something else. So I'll just write that down. Could it be E? So for subdiminished, I have two systems for this. One is S with a little degree symbol. How do I get to that? What the heck? What's a little degree symbol? Oh, shit. How to type symbol on Mac. Option Shift 8. Oh, nice. Okay. So E subdiminished. What do we say? Flat 9. Or it could be E Orwell flat 9. So, oh yeah, I did the same thing here. Orwell diminished, basically. Oh, jeez. It's Option Shift 8. Okay, and E sub minor flat 2. Oh, it's got a B in it. Oh, it is sub minor. You're right. Yeah, you're right. I don't know why I thought it was sub. It's different. Was I doing a different version? No. The chords are F, B, or the notes are F, B, E, G. Yeah. Oh, that is a fifth. So this is that's a minor third. Oh, this is super major. Sub minor, super major. Okay, I see. I'm not used to seeing this interval in this direction for some reason. Okay, so that is minor. So sub minor, I mean, and then flat. Okay, that's, but it's over that F. So if this chord, if you were to play this chord, it's like a chordal chord, almost, pretty much. So I think this would be like a, I guess it's like an E sub minor. It's actually not a flat 9 chord because the F's in the bottom. So I think it'd be E sub minor over F. And that would be true for both systems. So yeah, it's not diminished at all. Okay, so yeah, this is the answer right there. It's E sub minor over F. Yeah, because it doesn't have a flat 9. It's literally, if the you you never put extensions in the bass. The only extension, if it's above the seventh, it's not a bass. It's you have to write it as a slash chord, basically. Actually, if it's even the seventh, you have to write a slash chord. So if it's a first or second inversion, you don't necessarily even have to acknowledge that. Depends on the context. But if you're writing out a chart, if you really want that bass note, you'll write it. But if it's a weird chord like this, this is not interchangeable with E flat 9 because the root is so... Putting that note in the bass just changes the feeling too much. Now the other interpretation of this would be that this is a shorthand way of saying F, like super major, I guess it'd be just sharp 11. F super major 9 sharp 11, but this would be cleaner still because this kind of implies a third usually. And if you really want to be specific without the slash chord, you would have to like write no 3, no 5 or whatever. If it's jazz, the 5's not going to be in there usually anyway. And usually if it was on a chart, they wouldn't write all this anyway. But this is cleaner. So that to me is the answer right there. You suggested a chord name. Oh, I'm sorry. Your previous comment earlier. Sorry, everyone, I catch that. Okay, down sharp F. B. Down sharp D. Down sharp G. Oh, nice. Okay, so down sharp F. B down or down, yeah, down F sharp or whatever. Down F sharp, down B, down D sharp, down G sharp. Okay, so let's try this out. So down F sharp, B, down D sharp. That's major third right there. Down G sharp. Yeah, that's a nice one. So that's a minor 7 chord. But it's in this cool inversion. So this would be so what is it? The 7th's in the bass, right? So yeah, this would be a down G sharp, down G sharp, minor 7 over down F sharp. So that'd just be a third inversion. Down G sharp, minor 7. So yeah, I'm glad you brought up that chord because I think if you're playing around with minor 7 chords, this one probably sounds more like a minor 7 than this one, which is the one we just played. So I was kind of like going back and forth, like, how do you label the 7ths? Because in some contexts, the up minor 7 sounds more like the normal minor 7. So like we call this a classic minor 7 triad, like on the wiki and stuff, I think. But if you have that chord, I'm just calling it a neutral 7. And just calling the other 7 just the minor 7. So there definitely an argument could be made that that's a sub minor 7. But I'm just not calling it that. Like you just have to decide at some point. It's just the 7ths are a little ambiguous. It's just kind of how the minor 7ths are a little ambiguous. They just happen to be that way. So sort of arbitrarily. And I think the seconds are less ambiguous, so I kind of use that as justification because it mirrors what's happening in the seconds. So for the seconds, we have minor or sub minor second, minor second, neutral second, major second. Yeah, 18, 22, 19 are ambiguous. Yeah, exactly. Yes, I call the C minor neutral 7. Yeah, and that's the toughest one to, I mean, it sounds like a minor 7 pretty decently, but I think it's too much to like call it a minor 7 in some contexts and call it sub minor in others. Because like if you were to play a major triad with that same flatter 7, that sounds pretty much like a dominant chord. It sounds good. But if you play the other 7th, it sounds really neutral. But over a minor chord, it's the opposite. The neutral 7th sounds really minor, and the minor 7th sounds really sub minor. So it's a very context dependent flavor or interval. And the thing is that the seconds are not as finicky. They basically seem to make sense. I think because seconds don't really pop up in chords so much. So then when they do, I don't know. It just yep, sub minor, minor, neutral, major. Like I think you're gonna have a tough time calling this a major second and calling this a super major second. That's harder to rationalize. So since it's easier with the seconds, if you just invert those same relationships, you would get the same thing. So major flips to minor, neutral flips to neutral, minor flips to what am I saying? Minor flips to major, yeah, and then sub minor flips to super major. So yeah, it's like a weird quirk of 22. I find that really interesting, actually. Like, should probably like try to do something like with those chords, because they're but yeah, all this theory stuff's got me like kind of excited just about just playing the different chords. Like I've been practicing some of these chords. Like I really like the Sense of Magic chords, like all of them. I think it's a cool sound. I'd say out of all of these triads, the hardest ones to use are the Orwell major and minor. But even then, like, what was that chord I was playing earlier? Like, if you just add a seventh, they sound pretty cool. And actually, probably the hardest one to use is super major, honestly. So yeah, I'd say the super major is pretty hard to use, and then the Orwell major and minor ones are pretty hard to use. But every other chord, I feel like it's pretty easy to just mess with. Every other triad sounds pretty cool. Yeah, the magic ones are really interesting. Actually, those Orwell triads, if you just invert them, they're kind of cool. Like, that's not bad. And they're a little dissonant, sure, but they're kind of interesting. Yeah, that sounds cool. So what's that? That is a fifth. It's a major set. And it's a neutral 9, so that's a down 9. So it'd be F. F sus down 9. You could probably get away with calling it neutral 9, but I'll just put down. Neutral. Oops, put neutral 2. F sus neutral 2. Major 7. I guess you do major 7. So what's that? So we have down E flat, or up E flat, up B flat. Up E flat, up B flat. Down D, then A. Oh man, this is a weird one. So down D is also C sharp. That's not gonna help. And A. Okay, so the A is sharp, down sharp 11. And then the down D that's not down D, that's down E. Oh, it's D sharp. My bad. Okay. It's D sharp. So down E flat to D sharp. I guess it's like E down. It's like a flat 9. It's down E. Why am I getting confused about that? That's so weird. So up E flat, down E, or I guess it'd be up flat F, I guess. Up F flat, and then A. So that would be up E flat, down sharp 11, flat 9. Is it a flat 9? What's B flat? It is. Okay. I'd probably just call that a 5 because there's no 7. So up E flat. Why does it say down? Oh, down sharp 11. Up E flat 5, down sharp 11, flat 9. Jeez. Why does this happen? Is there something in my preferences? Why is it doing that? Take that off. Just take off all this auto stuff. I don't need any of this. Or maybe the lengths. Quotes. What the? No, none of these lists, man. None of these dashes. Well, sometimes with dashes, I guess. Don't get slurped away to infinity. Did I do this one? Up, F, G sharp, up, D flat, E. Up, F, G sharp, up, D flat, E. That's cool, it's a square. You can't play that on a linnstrument, unfortunately. Well, it starts sense minor, which is the same thing as minor down sharp 5, and then up F to E. It's a major 7, so it'd be a up F. So I have a few ways I would write this. I would do up F. This is the most intuitive one to me. Since a minor, maybe do little z because it's a minor. I don't know, honestly. And then major 7. And the other way you could do it would be minor down sharp 5, major 7, or major 7, however you want to do it. Those would both be fine. So here my notation is obviously simpler, but you have, if you don't know what any of this means, it's not. But it's a little cleaner on paper. I kind of like, I mean, that's another thing I like, is I like replacing the down sharps and stuff with symbols, new symbols. But if you don't know what they mean, which nobody knows what they mean because I just made it up. Oh, it's a up 5. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Up 5. Yeah. Up F minor, up 5, major 7. Yep. Yeah, and again, like it's less it's less intuitive than this other thing. I just know what the chord looks like, but maybe that's bad because I don't know what the 5th really is, you know. See how I mindlessly accept this, not even knowing what it. But if you asked me to play this chord, I would play it. And in fact, it'd probably be faster because I'd know what it looks like. I know the shape already. But it's an up 5. Yeah, it's an up 5. Yeah. Right? Yes. Wait, did I play the right chord? So the down sharp 5 is on the magic chords, the major and the minor. Is it somewhere else too? Or is it just those two? I guess it's just those two, yeah. Okay. Cool. You like up FZ and mez. Yeah. I know, I think it looks cleaner. I think it looks cool. I'm definitely partial to this. Just you know what I should do? I should go in here and clean this up because I think I've decided on the chord symbols. And then I'll do a new screenshot. And I'll share it to the group too, just so this is a nicer looking version. Here's my zoom. Here, let's see, here or something. All the I don't think tiny is. Let's go with the subdiminished, and then these are just gonna be these. You can also use these. Sorry, not these. You can also use these symbols, but use these names. Which sometimes it would probably make sense. You know what I should do? I should do a hybrid chart. I should just do a total hybrid chart. So maybe I'll just keep these. And then do like a translation sheet. Well, maybe I should clean this up though first. Let's just, I don't think I'm ever gonna do soup. I don't like that either. I prefer sine to sub. I think I like no plus versus plus, but they're both fine. Let's see, and then I think I like lowercase k. Everybody knows these. It's probably fine. You could also do lowercase. I don't know, lowercase looks better, I think. Just in general. Just stick with the lowercase. Or do you want to do uppercase on the majors? I don't know. Maybe. And then yeah, maybe you could do like CW. Let's do it. So. Let me. What about down F flat C? Down F A flat. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I was doing that chord, not this. Yeah, I was doing this chord earlier, and I was just calling that a diminished neutral 7. Yeah, I found that one just messing around earlier. I think it's the same chord. Let me double check. It's like one of the first ones I wrote on here. I think it was this one. Yeah, the down E, G, B flat. Oh, is that different? Oh, this is minor. Oh, yeah. Is that the same thing? It is the same chord. No. So we said down D, F. Oh, there is a difference. This is different. So here we have. What did I have? Down E, E, B. Is that the same chord? So we had minor third, is that sub minor third? And then super major. And then here we have minor. That's sub minor, right? Yeah. Super major. They are the same. I had to check. I make some really dumb mistakes, so. And I don't know why the second one sounded different to me that time. But yeah, I played that chord earlier and I was like, oh, that's a really good chord. So that is a 5, 6, 7, 9. Okay. They both felt O-tonal. Okay. You knew they were identical. Well, your ear is on another level compared to mine, so I get confused constantly. That one, what do we say? That was a diminished neutral 9, right? Yeah. I'm good. I'm kind of hungry. I'll probably get going pretty soon. Are there any, I'll consolidate the chart later. I think it's fine. Maybe I'll do, I'll take one more scale and look at it one more scale before I go. So I was doing this earlier too. I found some cool chords and stuff. Doing that. So where's my 22 Edo stuff? See, I was looking at like these porcupine mod mosses and stuff. Oh, here's an interesting one. Sub-minor blues. Dude, what is this? 4, 3, 4, 4, 3, 4. Oh, that's cool. Very kind of whole tony. So I'm just gonna put that on the keyboard so I don't have to think about the notes so much. So 4, 3, 4, 4, 3, 4. Oh, that's wrong. 4, 3, 4, 4, 3, 4. What the heck? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I didn't do 2 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So. Interesting. So this has a bunch of magic triads. So there'd be magic minor, magic, magic major. Interesting. That's basically a harmonic 7th chord without a 5th. So it's magic minor, magic, magic major, magic minor, magic. Magic major. Minor, magic minor. Magic. Okay, it's just magic. That's all it is. Kind of cool. It's cool how they relate to each other. Interesting. So these, you could call them astrology, citric chords, if you wanted to, I guess. Citric, lemon. Okay. I'll do one more because that one's kind of... Here, this one looks interesting. Kai Luday's mode. Let's do this one. So 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 1, 2. I think I've messed with this before a long time ago. Man, it's a confusing scale in this layout. So this would go. Jesus. It's a major. That's not a third. Is that a super major third? So is that a sense of magic? Oh, it is. Okay, sense of magic. So major, sense of magic, minor. How's the next note? So major, sense of magic, minor, sense of major. That's. Is that right? This is a 7-note scale. 7, yes. Sense of magic, then minor, then. Okay. That's a weird one. I don't think that's a third. That's like a. What note is that? That's a second. This is like a. I don't know what the hell this is. This is up F or G flat, B flat, C. C to G flat is a flat 5, right? And then B is a 7th. Like C7 flat 5. But a third. That's a weird one. So that'd be like a C7 flat 5. There's no flat 5 chord. Now that subdiminished has that. It's kind of like this without the third. It's a 7, so it'll be like C7 flat 5. I don't know. That one's weird. It like doesn't even have some real triads in it. Since pentatonic, whole tone, yeah. That the other scale. C, D, down E, down F sharp, down G sharp, B flat, C. That's like a whole tone scale. C, D, E flat, down F sharp. Is that the scale I was playing earlier? Yeah. Yeah, that's a cool one. Yeah. It's so pious. Fruits, yeah, the lemon and the lime and all that. Oh, mushroom and starship. What the hell? Yeah, these are gonna have weird, like. This one's 6 notes, so maybe it'll be not too bad. Mushroom. 54418. I give up on that other one. That was too confusing. 5, 4, 1. This one's gonna be a train wreck. Is this a 5-note scale? Oh, it is, yeah. So that's sub minor. That's same chord inverted. It's kind of a cool scale, actually. It's just got a sub minor. That's the same chord inverted. It's got a sus chord. Sus2. That's super major. It's got super major. Nothing crazy there. Definitely some kind of a cool little scale though. Not that interesting as far as the harmonies go. Okay, well, there's always tomorrow and the next day and the day for that and all that. So, all right, I am gonna go. Probably keep. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep doing more of this tomorrow. I really like doing this. It's nice to have. Nice to have some legs on a 22 Ito right now. And yeah, if anybody watching is interested in this stuff, you can hit me up on Discord. Happy to help explain it if it's confusing or whatever. Or I can just send you these charts. All this stuff is on the xenharmonic Alliance Discord and the Tuning of the Year thread. And, yeah, I'm very, I don't know, maybe I'll keep doing more of this tomorrow. I really like doing this. It's nice to have. Nice to have some legs on a 22 Ito right now. And yeah, if anybody watching is interested in this stuff, you can hit me up on Discord. Happy to help explain it if it's confusing or whatever. Or I can just send you these charts. All this stuff is on the xenharmonic Alliance Discord and the Tuning of the Year thread. And I feel like this is, I mean, this is kind of a breakthrough having these chord names. It's definitely kind of a big deal. I mean, for the microtonal world, I think it matters, you know, as small as that world is. Like we really need stuff like this. We need to just like do this simple tasks of like naming chords and, you know, making the theory make some kind of sense. So even if this is not like ultimately how it stays, you know, at least something. We have something now. We have like all the triads. Like you can play four notes now and give it a name pretty much, as long as there's thirds or yeah, basically. And even a lot of the extended chords and stuff. I think most of the chords most people are gonna want to use that's like harmonically driven. We can probably name it now. Probably just give it some kind of a name, which is great. I mean, I have to do that stuff. There's another early stream Mario pop in. Yeah, I'm gonna go out of town in a couple days, so I'm not sure what my stream schedule is gonna be like, but it's definitely possible that I'll stream earlier again tomorrow. You're gonna stream soon too. Nice. Remember to not get confused at all. I'm sure I'll get very confused. Before the night is done, I'll probably get confused some more. Okay, well, hey, thanks everybody for watching, hanging out. Nice to see some friendly faces through the internet again. Variable, Mr. Leaky, Romeo's, Paleant. All good people. Okay, see y'all next time. Have a good one.